in our area. So I called and asked if we could have someone come out and tell us all about it. And this morning, Lou Warner, if you'll come up and join me, he is going to come and share with us a little bit about Platte County Hillcrest.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning. All right, I'll try to make this work here best I can. Thank you. Thanks for letting me come in and talk with you a few minutes in your service this morning. Nancy really was asking me, so what's God up to out in the streets and when we're addressing homelessness? And there's a lot about what this is really. Hillcrest is really a story about what God has done and what God continues to do. Who is familiar with Hillcrest? If you've heard of Hillcrest or familiar with it, okay. And are you familiar with the housing program? Maybe we have a thrift operation in Platte City that's not far from here. Okay, great. Well, really the story behind this was a couple on the other part of the Northland had literally gotten into some trouble and were financially devastated, were homeless, went through this process for about a year, and some folks wrapped their arms around them and walked alongside of them through that process, and they made it through about a year later. But they could not imagine what it would have been like to go through that alone. And I really appreciate the words before that song about compassion. God had grabbed a hold of their hearts and said, hey, you know what it's like now to go through this. Imagine those folks that go through this with no one. And so that is really how Hillcrest began. That was in the late 70s, believe it or not. And they said, well, let's get an apartment and let's go do this and that. And people really liked this idea of a hand up, not a handout. And so what that really meant was, hey, you're going to have to work and make some money, but we're going to give you a place to stay, and we're going to give you some rent and some utility-free living for a while, let you get caught up and get some breathing room, and we're going to move through these finances and the other issues and barriers that you have to get you where you need to be. And that's really how it started. And when it started in the Northland over in Clay County, moved down to eastern Jackson County and Independence and Lee Summit, then it bounced over here in Platte County, where then we went up to St. Joe and Buchanan County, and then ended up actually even expanding into Kansas. And so really it was just a story about watch out, you never know what's going to happen when God gets hold of your heart. And this thing has just gone really crazy. I only represent Platte County, so about several years ago, each county now operates independent of each other. So when I talk to you today, it's just about what's going on here in Platte County from the area just north of here all the way down to Riverside, basically the I-29 corridor. So I am on staff. I'm the director of the thrift operations. We have several directors that are managing different departments within our ministry. But I am on staff. This is a volunteer shirt, but this is what our volunteers wear out there. I was at an event last week, and a gentleman asked me what church I was with, and I said, I'm with Hillcrest Platte County, and he said, oh, I've never heard of that church. And I said, well, think of us as the church outside the church. And he said, yeah, he goes, we need more of that. And I said, amen. So we are out there. We actually our ministry is meeting people where they're at that virtually end up homelessness or in homelessness situations. Most of it is situational, but it doesn't have to be. It can be chronic. But we're really not addressing the people that you're seeing on a street corner asking for handouts that are homeless. It's really more like your next door neighbor. These are situations that happen to families, whether it's a medical event, or a number of different things that can be devastating. A lot of our world is living from month to month now, so it doesn't take a lot just to take you out. And if you have no community, you really don't have this idea of what it's like to have people to walk alongside of you. So we are those people. We have about 44 apartments that we manage now. Just think about like half up here in Platte City and the other half down in Parkville. We have that all started, and we celebrated 20 years here in Platte County just this last year. So we've grown a lot. We started with a couple of apartment complexes, and now we have 44 apartments. we were getting donations from our donors that wanted to support our ministry, and they started piling up, and this was about 15 years ago. And we thought, well, what are we going to do with this? We were getting stuff, we could fill the apartments, but it was just piling up. So somebody came up with the idea, well, let's just start a thrift store. We'll try to raise some money. Well, and so we did that. It was 15 years ago, just this last month. We started down in Parkville, and we started with just one floor in a small building. Now we have grown to have 3 facilities of thrift, and what we've learned in that is everybody has a lot of stuff. And we feel like that we have earned a reputation in the community by our effectiveness of our ministry for people that people do want to support us. So the thing that's important to understand is we're a very high accountability program. What that means is you have to go through budget boot camp, you have curfews, there's grading systems. We will try to train you into this concept of community while you're with us. So there'll be other families, individuals going through our program with you. So we are really some of our mysteries moving folks from isolation to community and giving them a snapshot of what that means. Many of them are not involved in the church, don't understand what community is. Maybe don't even understand how to have that in your own neighborhood or on your own street. And so we're trying to get them to look at things differently as we're working through their financial issues, as well as all the other things, the life skills training and all the other things that we work with. Typically, a family or individual will go through our program in 3 months. It gives them the ability to save up money and pay off their debt. And then we look at is this sustainable, and we put together a sustainable plan so they will make it when they get out. We do have some apartments that we can use for extended stay, which is if maybe you're not quite ready to get out after 3 months, you can stay with us a little bit longer. And typically those clients that go through our program do not return back to homelessness at as high as a 95% rate.
Wow. So
we do not have a drug program, rehabilitation program, but we do have now a counseling center, if you will. Several years ago, it was brought to our attention that we have homelessness in our high schools. And so one young lady was identified. We brought her in, took care of it, and that really is what started at what we call our young adult program. And that's a program we're addressing ages 17 to 23. That's a program where they can stay with us longer than 3 months if they need to. And we're addressing much more than just some of the financial stuff. We're addressing career track, transportation, and usually there's many issues that has to be addressed with counseling. So we now have a credentialed psychologist on staff, and we see that as from the mental health standpoint of how we're helping people. We're seeing that continue to grow and that need continue to grow, and so we're addressing that. We probably one of the other things to understand is the need in the community never quits growing. So I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I said, I've never not felt growing pains since we started doing this. And then we think about, we never really wanted to be a part of a ministry that if you're meeting the needs and the needs are far beyond your resources, it's going to feel like growing pains. So we've never really stopped feeling that way, and that's okay. And where we've gotten a little better, and some of the things we've learned over the time is the ability to. So we were at one time just an organization that when a family got in trouble, and they kind of fell off the cliff, so to speak, and then they came to us for help. We were thinking, well, how can we be a little bit more proactive and reach some of these folks, maybe help them in a way to keep them from getting there in the first place? So we now have a blessings program, which is an eviction prevention program. We've stopped over 700 evictions already with that program. And the thrift stores have served us in that way. As you can imagine, we sell clothing, we sell shoes, we sell necessities. We have an ability to help families that get into trouble and with those needs, and we can help them along the way. And we really do make affordable living a reality for a lot of people just by offering a thrift service. So we've watched the thrift stores evolve and help us to raise money as we try to keep up with the growth in the community. So it's been really a wild ride along the way as far as where we were and where we are today. We are still very much a volunteer-driven organization. Volunteers are truly the heartbeat of our organization. There's a lot of ways you can get involved with us, and on the thrift stores alone, we still have over 60% of the workforce is volunteer-driven. And so, but when I started the thrift stores, it was like 99% volunteer-driven and staff. So we've had to add a lot of staff too, which is just more money. And so we're doing the things to keep up and try to address and be in a position to expand beyond what we're doing. And again, our goal is to meet the needs of those individuals. The ministry beyond moving folks from isolation to community really is addressing more of the dignity that's lost in these situations. One of the first experiences I had early on when I was managing one of the thrift stores was a guy, one of our clients would come in, he had 3 daughters, all about this tall. And back then we were still selling the VHS tapes. You could buy them 4 for $1. And we don't do that much anymore because they quit making the VHS machines, right? So I would watch him come in each week with his daughters, and they'd go pick out a movie. And that was like their big treat. They got to spend a quarter. And it was an event for them. And he came in every week, and I got to know this guy a little more. He was a cook, but had lost his job, and he had just fell into a state of depression. He would look at his families, he wasn't providing for them, and just started spiraling down. And he basically lost all the self-respect that a man can lose. And after several conversations with him, I really got to get some insight into what that's like for a father not to provide for their family, or just to find themselves in a homeless program. The shame sometimes that will come with that. And it really is a loss of dignity that we're addressing. So the other thing you can think about when you think of Hillcrest is we are trying to restore dignity to these individuals that have lost it for whatever reason. And some of these folks are walking with the Lord, some of them aren't. And we all know those that walk with the Lord knows where real dignity comes from, but a lot of people don't understand that. And so we're walking alongside these folks, and we're trying to restore that for them. This man said, Lou, I can't even look at myself in the mirror. And he, the good news is he got a better job. He got a great job. He was a great chef, and he worked his way through, and he made it just fine, and we got him on his way. But I'll never forget that was my first experience of really trying, understand when we use words like compassion and moving closer to individuals like that, what that really means and what's really going on inside of them, and the opportunity to get up a little closer to those folks, whether it's through a thrift operation or helping out with housing or whatever that looks like in the role, all the different roles throughout Hillcrest. But I wanted to share that with you just to give you some insight of what some of the things we're addressing. We're committed to. We're kind of one of the biggest movements this county has ever seen. Just as far as the people that are getting involved with us. You can get involved by donating items. You can get involved by every time if you ever bought something at the thrift store, you're involved with us. You're part of Team Hillcrest. All the money we make in that store goes back into our programs, all of it. And so, the other ways you can do is to get involved and be a volunteer. And I've got all kinds of ways that you guys can get connected, and we'll put that out in the lobby for you. There'll be some information out there about our young adult program, some contact information about how you get a hold of us. We like to talk about all the ways God is impacting lives through Hillcrest, whether it's through volunteers and staff, but we don't spend a lot of money on marketing. So I'm also here to share you guys are our mouthpieces out there. You also need to know where to send somebody when they get into trouble. And we're that organization. And we're not everything to everybody. There are thousands of organizations addressing homelessness out there. We have our niche. What we do very well. But if we can't help them, we are resource rich, and we can find other ways to refer them and pull maybe another community partner alongside of them if we need to. So that's why else I'm sharing today. I've got another piece out there that just identifies all 3 of our stores off I-29, some of the impact some of the volunteers are having, and a way that you can get involved in that. And by the way, we don't really follow schedules on volunteering. You can just show up. You do have to sit through an orientation, but you can just show up. We're open 6 days a week. And so, we become somewhat of a lighthouse, if you will, in the community. A lot of people haven't heard of Hillcrest, so they'll come through a thrift store, and they'll go, so what's this about? What's Hillcrest? What do you guys do? And so, that's 6 days a week we're open to the public and can engage that. So think about the beauty of that. Amen. As far as, man, that's just a beautiful thing. And so it's important to know that you can be a part of that as little or as much as you want. I always tell people, they don't believe me, we don't schedule you. If you're a cashier, you have to sit on a schedule. Other than that, it's wide open. And we have projects going on every week, as you can imagine. Yeah, so I wanted to leave that with you. We also have an annual fundraiser that you can get more information on. These cards are also going to be in the lobby. There's a link on that. We have an annual gala fundraiser. It's already sold out this year, so you cannot attend it. But you can get online and look at an online auction. And there's also a way that you can connect online for this year's success story. We share a lot of success stories. We had a young woman that just graduated out of young adult housing that applied and got enough grant money to go to MU, cover her entire expenses.
Amen. Wow.
That's just awesome that she's willing to do the work and do it again. It's work to do those applications. And so that was really cool to see that. But, it's situations happen every single day in our world. We'll have a young adult that's going to high school, and they have a single parent. They die, they have no life insurance, and she's left to fend all by herself. And I could just tell you story after story after story. That's just what we're addressing. Those are the things that are coming up. And we just appreciate all the support that we're getting in the community, because it does take everybody together. We're also appreciate the fact that we can set aside all our denominations and come together. We literally are the hands and feet of Jesus. And we are up close and personal to these folks going through a hard time. We're a hand up, not a handout. We work very hard not being toxic in our charity efforts. But we are about people setting that stuff aside, banding together, and making a movement, making a difference in the lives of those who are hurting. And so that's just where we are, and that's what we will do. I'll be available after the service. If are there any questions while I'm up here? Quick questions? I'll be available outside after the service if you have any other questions that come to mind. I've got some other things, some impacts that we're having in the community, and like I said, some connection pieces that we'll provide out in the lobby for you. So thank you, and most importantly, we need your prayers.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
No matter where you are in your life, there's always time to pray. And we are scriptural based. We are a Christian organization, and we rely on prayer. Prayer precedes movement, and we know that. And so I could tell you stories and stories about prayer that was going on before you ever saw some of this stuff developing. It's just wrapped in God, and it's so exciting for someone like me just to be a witness to that every day, and all the moving parts. It's a lot sometimes, I'll admit. And the song this morning helped me. It rested my soul this morning. It was awesome. So thank you for that, because we do run hard a lot of times and don't take advantage of the day that we're asked to rest our souls. So thank you very much. Appreciate a chance to share with you this morning. Like I said, I'll be around after this service if you have any other questions. Thank you.